Good afternoon, everyone. We've got a really good turnout for our State of the Chamber and EDC event today. Just a chance to meet with our members and work that we accomplished in the community in 2020 and share a view of the look ahead. Good afternoon, I'm Dirk Draper. I'm the President and CEO of the Chamber and EDC, and it's really a pleasure to welcome you with us today. We'll look forward to spending the next hour together. We've got some prepared information we'll present, and there's plenty of time at the end of our presentation to take your questions and respond to those for things. Your chat box. The chat line to share those questions, and I and our board chair from last year, Kathy Bowe, and our board chair for this year, Mike Juran, are presenting as well, and three of us will be happy to answer those questions. I am joined today, Kathy Bowe, I'll introduce a little bit more later, but let you know she is the founder and CEO of Boecore here in Colorado Springs. She was our board chair in 2020. Mike Juran is the founder and CEO of Altea. I'll tell you a little bit ahead, his look ahead to 2021. So we're going to do this in three steps today. We'll share with you some outcomes from 2020, look ahead to our priorities in 2021. There's Q&A, as I mentioned, after the slides, and use your chat box again to pose your questions to us. And then following the meeting, we will share with you, and we'll be sharing publicly as well, our annual report. And you should be seeing some media about our new directors who will be joining our board for 2021. So next slide, Emma. That's okay. We can go to the next slide after that too then. We continue to get in our region here that show Colorado Springs continues to be recognized as a great place to own and operate a business, a great place to do work. We're really proud of these rankings. We use them in communicating the values about Colorado Springs and some of our attributes. And I know you see these throughout the year, and we take them seriously and use them to promote our region. Next slide. Perhaps the area where our staff has spent the most dedicated time over the last 2 years has been in the pursuit of U.S. Space Command. The Chamber and EDC work the Air Force that we should be the permanent home of Space Command. That combatant command is here now, and we're the provisional headquarters for another few years. We have pursued this similar to how we would a corporate location decision. We were very disappointed last week with the announcement that Space Command would be located in Huntsville, Alabama. And I want you to know that you may have seen in some of the press, some of the headlines that this decision should be based on the merits of the communities and not be influenced by politics. It's an issue of national security, and it's far too important to be influenced by a political process. With the announcement of it being in Huntsville, we have asked the Biden administration to suspend that move, to investigate how the decision was made and reverse the decision if it was not based on just the straight merits that were identified by the Air Force. This is, we're being careful not to say it should be in Colorado Springs. Come back and answer your questions about this. I want you to know that when this announcement was made last week, we immediately began working with our local, state, and federal elected leaders to look into how the decision was made, and we'll continue doing so until and unless the moving vans arrive to move our colleagues here in the facilities out of state. And we'll come back and answer some questions about that a little bit later. Another big announcement, Emma, next slide. Another big announcement last year was that Southwest Airlines will begin serving our community in about 60 days now. For nearly 2 decades, it's been a desire to have Southwest serve our CEO, along with expanding I-25, bringing Southwest Airlines to our community with the top 2 infrastructure requests from the business community. And I'm really pleased to say that becomes a reality here this quarter. The Chamber and EDC last fall, September and October timeframe, for a few weeks, action-packed weeks, worked with Greg Phillips and his team at the airport, the mayor's office, and Doug Price and his team at Visit Colorado Springs to host executives from Southwest Airlines and convince them to serve our region. We're really pleased starting next spring. I've already bought my tickets. I'm hoping that spring training is on in March, and on March 11th, I'm going to fly down to Phoenix to on their inaugural flight to that community. One of 4 other clients from Colorado Springs with 13 daily flights. Watch for more in the coming couple of months as our community marketing campaign kicks off in the area. Next slide, please. We heard clearly from our members the desire to connect, even more so during pandemic conditions when it was many of us were quarantined, many of us were isolated, we were working from home, and really a disruption in normal business processes. And the requests for opportunities to connect with the Chamber and EDC and connect with your colleague 2020. We responded by setting up 3 voices of business communities. Just briefly, I'll share these with you. One was our Small Business Advisory Council. This was created to help us better understand our members' needs. You can see the stats there that more than half our members have fewer than 10 employees. It's a very strong focus of ours, a very important element of our business community here is our small businesses. We continue to, we provide them with businesses in our region and to help shape our region's business climate. So that's inside we call it the SBAC, the Small Business Advisory Council was one. Next slide, Emma. The next one was diversity in the work over the past 2 years. We heard clearly the need for this. The Chamber and EDC recognized this even in advance of events in 2020. In 2019, during our strategic planning, our board adopted a strategy and directed staff to work to build a strong and inclusive business climate. And we launched the Diversity in the Workplace group last year to help address that. This committee helps work towards that by empowering diverse talent in our business community, as well as connecting the community with education and events to help business leaders, business owners know how to include diverse talent in their business community. This group will leverage and partner with other community organizations to work in achieving this goal for the entire Pikes Peak region. That's diversity in the workplace. Next slide, then, Emma. And you'd be surprised at the number of businesses in our community that are franchises. They are locally owned, but they have a framework of support through a franchise structure. We stood up this group to create education and support resources for franchise owners, to create public awareness around the franchising model and of concern to the franchise industry. We launched this group with an event called How to Be a Successful Franchise Owner to explore challenges and solutions of owning a franchise business. If you're interested in more information on how to engage with these groups, our Small Business Advisory Council, Diversity in the Workplace, or our Franchise Focus Committee, connect with Emma Mitchell on our team, and she can direct you to those. Emma facilitates them and leads the groups in their discussions and their activity. We look forward to doing that as a way. We've built more ways for you to connect with others in the business community. Emma, next slide then. Right up there in terms of our priorities in 2020, our key focus areas was pandemic recovery. When the scope and the breadth of the COVID pandemic became apparent, we reached out to Susan Whelan and her team in public health to put together a regional recovery council. And since early April last year, we've been meeting policies and industry variances to identify trends and make sure there's clear guidance and communication for our businesses to do the best way, to operate the best way possible during the pandemic. We have a strong recovery story to tell so far. You may have seen in some media that Colorado Springs is proving to be one of the more resilient communities in the country in terms of how we have responded to the pandemic. Tatiana Bailey, who runs UCCS's Economic Forum, identified that Colorado Springs area has recovered 78% of the jobs that were lost in the early days of the pandemic. That was well ahead of our peers on the Front Range or other larger cities on the Front Range. Denver had recovered about 70%, Fort Collins 55%, and Boulder had recovered about 40% of their jobs. You'll see another slide from Mike Duran a little bit later that has some additional information about this. So we have worked move the dial to level orange 3 to 4 weeks earlier than were anticipated to allow businesses to operate with more relaxed standards and survive and recover more quickly. Currently, we're collaborating with El Paso County, with the city, and many other community partners on standing up a 5-star program. These are numbers, our health numbers that are tracked on the dial, put us in a category where we are eligible to participate in the 5-star program. We're working rapidly now to stand that up and have that ready. Watch for more information in the coming weeks as we are approved to participate in the state's program. Next slide, Emma. Business advocacy is one of 4 of our key focus areas at the Chamber and EDC. We worked hard in 2020 to help pass Amendment B to repeal the Gallagher Amendment, which means millions of dollars in property tax relief to your labor and employment bills at the state legislature to make them more business friendly, to ensure we have a good business climate here. We worked with our public health department, I mentioned them just a minute ago, the county's public health department in that middle photo, to allow our local some additional relaxation weeks ahead of other cities across the state to make sure that our local businesses could compete fairly with national retailers and other big box stores that we have in our community. And it really helped them begin to recover revenue streams earlier than competitors were able to in other communities. We also helped pass an important source of revenue during the pandemic restrictions, and one more way to make life a little more normal for all of us, perhaps. And the photo on the right there is a picture of my colleague, Rachel Beck. She's our Vice President of Government Affairs. Rachel was asked by statewide leaders to co-chair a statewide ballot campaign this year. There she's debating the family medical leave bill that's on Denver television late last year, right ahead of the election. She was recognized by Colorado with other heavy hitters in the state like Governor Polis. Next slide, Emma. Your support enabled us to accomplish this work in 2020. We were very responsible stewards during the pandemic. We took immediate steps, as did you and your businesses, to control costs. And through that process, we were able to put in place last staff, my full team available to assist and stay engaged with you during the year. Next slide, Emma. It also helped us to participate significantly in 3 big community initiatives that were part of our fabric in 2020. We've committed $125,000 to a community campus, market our airport. It's a great place to fly from. Look before you book. And to ensure that some capital improvements, capital investment was made at the airport to accommodate this new carrier at the Colorado Springs Airport. The middle logo there is for United States Space Command. We invested $100,000 from our general fund and from our 501c3 foundation. It's called the Foundation for Colorado Springs Future, to support our campaign to attract U.S. Space Command here. And we stay engaged with that with consultants in Washington, D.C. who are carrying our message to members of the House and Senate following the announcements last week. And then the third one, almost a year ago, the Exponential Energy Loan Program called Survive and Thrive. And again, through our foundation, we provided a $100,000 loan to the Survive and Thrive program to be directed to small businesses to help you and your colleagues survive here in Colorado Springs during the pandemic time. Cecilia Harry, our Chief Economic Development Officer, reviewed loan applications, and I was involved in the Strategic Oversight Committee that helped stand up that program and set the policies for that. So 3 important community initiatives we were able to participate in because of your strong and continued support in 2020. One more thing, last slide, and then I'll turn it over to Kathy Bowe. Just a couple of years in the making. We have been working hard to update our working space, and in early 4th quarter this year, we moved to within the Alamo building, 102 South Tejon Street, to the 12th floor. We updated our space, made it more efficient and more attractive. And it's sort of appropriate, isn't it, that these photos, nobody's in them, because we've been, like most of you, we've been working from home half hours, but we have space available, and we look forward to this being a hub for business community gatherings when pandemic conditions allow. Really, really pleased with this and enjoying the chance to be in updated, more attractive surroundings. And with that, I'm going to turn to Kathy, is the founder and the CEO of Boecore, and she was our chair in 2020. Kathy is going to share with you her views, among other things, on our role as the glue that helps connect community stakeholders. So Kathy, to you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Chamber of Commerce Day in Colorado Springs, as was yesterday. And when we talked about putting together our words today, I said, I would love to talk about all the glue that heard U.S. News and World Report 3 years in a row being one of the best cities to live in America, or one of the top cities to live in America. And there's a reason for it. And I see many faces and names. And I'm going to back up and just tell you that when I first got asked to join the chamber board 7 years ago, I wasn't so sure, and I was pretty naive about it. Like most business owners and most of you, you have a really busy day job. So I only committed to do 1 year, and it really opened my eyes. And there was all kinds of organizations. For those of you who are not, you can just imagine with the importance of what the city does and the county does and the downtown partnership and all the different tentacles, including the airport and how important that is for our economic vitality, and the Pikes Peak Workforce Center and our education system here. All of those are very, very important. So I was intrigued, and then following another 3-year term, and I was really nervous about being a chair. And then I accepted the opportunity to be a chair. And I will tell you, it's a difficult year because of the Space Command competition, which we're not over. And I'll be happy to comment on that particular topic if there are questions during our Q&A. But that brought the glue even closer together. And fortunately for our great city, everyone leaned in. So I think many of you know about Survive and Thrive, and the good work that's just been done out of that, making sure they were disseminating how to help you with PPE, or where to go to, and how to manage your businesses. So I guess that's really about bringing people together for a common cause to make this city great. That does not happen by accident. I was actually really surprised of our leading sectors that are members, and this is true for chambers across the country. Not every, and that's always puzzled me, because now that I know what it takes for all that work that the Chamber EDC does, it always puzzled me that more people don't become members and invest heavily, because it makes a big difference. State, how many business owners have the time and expertise to go to the state and lobby on behalf of business at the time? So that's another great example, and the work that Danny and her team do to put out the messaging about the good work that happens in our city. Logos of different organizations within the city, whether it is the city or the county or whichever organization that I've mentioned. But underneath all that, you'll always see the activities that SBDC. So I don't want to forget you, Ekta. Sorry about that. Actually, 20 years ago when I started Boecore, I went through the SBDC, and I always like to give you credit as well. And I guess the opportunity for me today is to encourage those of you who are peripherally engaged to become more engaged. Not only because it's important to our community, but what you get back for it, and where to go to for what, and a true appreciation for what makes this city tick. So I think I want to make sure I give plenty of time for Q&A. And so good-natured and smart, funny guy that took on the job as the chair for 2021 to take the lead from here. So I want to turn it over to him now, and I'll be on.
Thanks, Kathy. Appreciate that. And Mike, actually, before we turn to you, and I'll do a transition to you. First, I'll say, Kathy, You have seen lots of change in that period of time, and perhaps during your tenure, the most tumultuous year in the last, certainly in the last decade that we've had as a community, as an organization. Just appreciate your steady hand.
Yeah, Dirk, thank you. There's one other thing that you've been instrumental in, as has the board over the last, I'd say 3 years particularly, and that is the point that you made about diversity and making sure that the fabric of our community is represented so on our board. And I think we made some major strides there. And I'm going to take that away as something I'm really proud that we as a team accomplished.
Thanks, Kathy. On the slide you can see up there is the direction when our 2021 and set our priorities for the year ahead. Just want to share with you as I transition over to Mike Duran, our top priority for the year is to help the business community survive, recover from the pandemic. It's been a major focus until the community is back to running full speed, pre-pandemic conditions. There's 3 key defining objectives that we've adopted to accomplish that goal. One is just continue the role we've played in identifying resources, continue working with our public health and provide resources, set policies and so forth, and set the way forward. Second way is to promote the region, which we'll continue to do with our marketing and communications work, to let others know that this is a great region to locate your business in, to stay here and to grow. And then the third is a very important component for your businesses, and that's talent attraction of our current and our future businesses to thrive and succeed. And as Kathy said, we have so many community partners engaged with us on all 3 of those. There's very few that we can be partners. So I'll share that with you as a look ahead to 2021. And next slide, Emma, I'll turn it over to Mike Duran. Mike is the founder and CEO of Altea, and he is our board chair for 2021 to share his views on the year ahead and the important role that small business plays in our
hey, thanks, Mike, Dirk, and good afternoon, everyone. First, one of the things Dirk asked me to do too is just kind of explain what is the role of the board chair, some of my unique perspective that I'm going to bring to this moving forward this year. But first, on the role of the board and the chair, there's kind of 3 major components that broadly represent our diverse set of chamber members and constituents, and help guide them through the strategic planning process, regular board meetings, but most and are able to express your opinions and perspectives, because there is a wide range of perspectives throughout our community. And we talk a lot about these big initiatives in large companies. Southwest here in this room are small businesses from different perspectives. The second component of the chair is really to partner with Dirk and kind of act as a second pair of eyes, keep him and his staff on track. And honestly, Dirk does a great job, and his team is just fantastic. So we don't need to do a whole lot there, but every once in a while you need a second pair of eyes. And the third is much like all the board members, to kind of act when it's helpful to promote our region to firms that are looking to locate here or expand in Colorado Springs. And those are all kind of equally important parts of what the board does. One of my unique perspectives landed in Colorado Springs 30 years ago. I started working for Hewlett-Packard, which is a large corporation and a big part of our community. But then, like many of you, I spun off, started a small business, and we started with just 4 people and now have grown to over 100. And thinking about that, and thinking about how we can represent you in this room and give you a voice, I want to reflect back a little bit on the forum in Denver regarding all of Colorado's sort of profile of where our businesses are. And Emma, if you could show the first slide, is in Colorado, and Colorado Springs is not unique in our whole Colorado profile, and that is 89% of all of our firms have fewer than 20 employees, that most of us are small businesses. Flip to the next slide. And so those 89% of those firms really employ over half of all of our citizens. Is really not that much different. In our case, 65% of our members have 25 or fewer employees, and 48% have 10 or fewer employees. Of not only our community, but also of our membership. Emma, go to the next slide there. The other thing that struck me, and this is a trend in Colorado Springs, and this is how, as we get past the pandemic, and that is 30% of all the firms in Colorado are 5 years or younger. So we're not only a young community as a population, our businesses, and many of them are tech startups and businesses that are just going to be the engine for Colorado and Colorado Springs, for the next 10 to 20 years. The other thing I like is workforce and workforce initiatives. Besides being the chamber chair this year, I'm also on the advisory board for Pikes Peak Community College. Our company and I've gotten really involved in some of the local school districts. And we want talent that we have, from K through 12, up through our great university system. So we're going to have a lot of focus on that moving forward. Other than that, as key for you is just, get involved in the chamber. A lot of the events, we have upcoming chamber events here in the future. I think there's another Chamber Connect coming up on February 4th, which is how to create a helpline. So there's going to be some really good data and information around that. But in general, we are here to help. We are here to help the whole community thrive. We're here to convene all of the players, not just the business, wrap around us, like the healthcare organizations, the hospitals, the universities, the government, our city government, our county governments, and the healthy, thriving community. And again, as Kathy and Dirk said, not just for the lucky ones, but for everybody. We don't succeed unless everybody in our community succeeds. And that's a big part of who we are. With that, Dirk, I'll turn it back to you, and we can open it up for questions.
Thanks, Mike. I will remind you, if you've got questions you'd like us either to answer, to elaborate on anything you've seen here, please use the chat line to do so, and Emma will facilitate those. So give you a chance to do that. I'll share with you one more piece of information from 2020. A key metric for us is jobs that were created in the community where we were directly involved. And we do that through working with our local retention and expansion program. Last year, we worked with 125 companies on issues ranging from real estate selection to talent attraction to grants and funding to surviving the pandemic and resources that were there. So more than 125 companies we worked with last year. In addition, we worked with a number of companies companies like Amazon. And for reasons that you'll understand clearly, the attraction business really slowed once the pandemic hit, as companies sort of pulled their horns in and evaluated what their commercial space look like and what their operations look like. Nonetheless, we are objects of companies that are looking to expand or locate in Colorado Springs to grow their presence here. During 2020, you'll see this in our annual report that's out, that will be out right after the State of the Chamber and EDC event here. You'll see that we report more than community with an average wage in excess of $60,000 annually, and with a total capital expenditure collectively of over $1 billion. So significant work in spite of the pandemic that we were able to contribute to the community in 2020. So there is, and if you look at your chat line, Danny just put those in. Danny Barger is our Vice President Marketing Communications. She just put the link there. You'll find a flip book on our web immediately after the meeting today. So look forward to answering your questions about that. One other person I want to give a shout out to, I've mentioned a number of members of our team, and that's Reggie Ash. Reggie is our defense chief and really has led our efforts in pursuit of U.S. Space Command. It's been really a sole focus of his for the last 18 months, and I'm really happy to have had his leadership in that regard. So Emma, let me check with you. Any questions for the group we can address?
The first question, Dirk, is how can my voice be heard better at the state capitol?
Good question. Business advocacy is one of 4 key areas for us, a key mission area for us. Rachel Beck, mentioned earlier, is our Vice President of Government Affairs, and reach out to Rachel directly or one of the members of, we've got about 24 people who serve on one of our committees, the Government Affairs Council, that helps recommend the positions that we take on legislative issues of concern to the back. And you'll find Rachel's contact information on our website, single point of contact to start that process.
Okay, next question. Is there any way to have resources or a way to pull data from my business?
Yeah, 2 suggestions. One, that's a new tool that we made available this year. It is a tool that you can use to evaluate a marketplace, geographic marketplace for competition, for suppliers, for potential customers that would be relevant for you as you start, as you either evaluate or launch your small business. A second one I'll mention, this is an activity we're about to begin, and we're working with several community partners and with the Quad partnership to do some mapping of the entrepreneurial resources available in the community today so that we have a single point of contact, single point of information for entrepreneurs. What else you got, Emma?
Okay, the next question. I would like to learn more about how my company can be helpful to support the Chamber's workforce development initiative in Colorado.
We're working closely with community partners to address the important issue of talent attraction for our, first and foremost, Pikes Peak Workforce Center. We are helping cost share Tamara Moore, who is new on staff, third quarter last year, under Tracy Marquez's direction there, with other community partners to make sure they have dedicated resources to help build our talent attraction tools that are available. Information on our staff, Cecilia Harry and Beth Taylor would be key points of contact about your workforce needs and resources that we can connect to other community partners. I'll also say, I think every one of these questions so far, Emma, if folks check our website for additional information, use the search function, you'll find those. We work hard at being a good landing page of information, provide resources ranging from workforce talent attraction to pandemic resources that we launched earlier.
Okay, you ready for the next question, Dirk?
Absolutely.
Can Space Command really be saved?
Kathy, I'll ask you to, because of the work consultants that we engaged inside the Beltway of Washington, D.C., who've been working with us during the Space Command pursuit, we continue to find information. We continue to advocate with the Biden administration through a very strong response in voicing concerns about how this decision was made. I work for the Chamber of Commerce in Colorado Springs. Of course, I think we're the best location for it, but that's based on the merits that we have in our community, from the related missions to the men and women in uniform. I do think it can be reversed, and we continue to pursue that out.
Now, boy, there's a lot I could say here, and I'm going to remain optimistic as well, Dirk. I think you're right. I think that there is a mechanism in place for us to verify as citizens, as a community. There's already our elected officials and others from other states are getting engaged, which are helpful, from the House Armed Service Committee, that are engaging. If they do the homework and make sure they understand all the cost and assess what it would cost to really move it from here versus what it would cost to rebuild, and they do that all right, and they can prove to I guess the decision makers, then I think that we can cooperate with Huntsville like we've done for decades, and will do, and we do it today. So many of you may know or not know that the Missile Defense Agency moved from the DC area, a good part of it, down to Defense Command. And we have Missile Defense Agency work and Space and Missile Defense Command work here, and we work together every day with Huntsville. And I don't blame them, Phil. What I don't really like in the Politico and all the news media is when they share thank you to Senator Shelby for getting it moved to Huntsville, because elected officials to make sure that we do the right thing with the Freedom of Information Act and potentially a GAO investigation, and just do the right thing. And then we need to Whiting's event last night with all the new space deltas. So it was really cool to be at an event, even though we were all in masks, and feel safe. And there was a lot of optimism. This Star Command, General Whiting leads, and 7 of the 9 space deltas are here in Colorado Springs. And he assured me those missions aren't leaving. And train and equip in Colorado Springs, and that's where the money is. And so follow the money. So I tell you that because we have plenty of work before, and we'll probably likely be here for many more years. And things will continue to evolve. That's what I think. It'll be interesting for us to see what happens. But to our economy, and you know how much importance it was for us. I want to say it's important. It's important that we get it, or keep it, I should say. But it's not devastating if we don't.
So we continue to work that, working with, let's start with our 2 U.S. senators, Senator Hickenlooper and Senator District, with Governor Polis, with Lieutenant Governor, with I should say Representative Crow as well, who represents Buckley Air Force Base in the Aurora area, and with Mayor Southers and his team, a very strong collaborative.
Okay, thank you. The next question is there anything that the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC needs the business community to do for our
is be a member, come be part of the impact we're having on the community. Some of my remarks there, I talked about where we've invested back in community initiatives, and we rely on our membership base to do that work. About 70% of our revenue every year comes from the private sector, comes from members of businesses like your support. About 20% of our revenue comes from public sector, the city and county, the airport, regional building department, some others with whom we have funding agreements, and then about 10% of our revenue in a normal year comes from events where we host the business community to gather. Last year, of course, was not a normal year, but in a typical year, that's our 70% of our revenue comes from our membership base. Join us, engage with us, like Mike said, make sure that your voice is heard.
Yeah, and Dirk, if you don't mind, I want to add this as well, which is the most important thing you can do is to thrive and grow and hire people, the other way around. And so, besides being a member, whether you become a member or not, actually just don't miss the mark on whatever you're doing as a company until you come to us and ask us for help or advice or connecting people. Because the whole point of this is that you grow your businesses and you're healthy.
Absolutely accurate, Mike.
Okay, the next question is, any thoughts on the pandemic impact on commercial real estate?
I think the long-term effects of the pandemic are yet to be seen, and we won't know those with certainty. In the near term, Yes, there has been a softening of some. We know that commercial property owners have been affected by their tenants not being able to maintain rent. Some lenders have worked to accommodate the need for forbearance of terms and conditions of mortgages on commercial property. So that we know that in the short run, there has been impact on the commercial real estate industry. The long term, I think, is yet to be seen as businesses adapt, as businesses respond, as businesses make sound business decisions of what their future conditions look like. I would guess there's 182 folks on the, you have responded with your business during this period of time. One thing I'd say about Colorado Springs, and I mentioned this earlier in my remarks about our resiliency, is that because of our diverse industry mix and our strong sectors in aerospace and defense industry and in the tech industry, those companies have been able to adjust to work from home, to continue operating at near to respond to that. And that has helped with our resiliency as a community. We do know that that's uneven. We do know that some sectors have been hard hit, have been devastated by this. And we do know that there are impacts to commercial real estate. And so we're waiting to see. We'll continue to monitor that and see the long-term effects of commercial real estate.
Yeah, and Dirk, I think we need to start thinking of just real estate, right? As you're discovering, a lot of people are working from home. It's just going through the roof. Many of those homes that are being built are bigger homes where they're building home offices. Many of the real estate developers and land developers in our community do both. Commercial and residential. And so as cities look like in the future, it's going to be a much more, I think, strong mix of how do we live and work and, use our land and our buildings in ways that match both of them. So the demand in Colorado Springs is true. Said we're holding steady on commercial and light manufacturing and distribution. So all of these should thrive as you then toss in hospitality and, hotel, everybody to develop and do quite well in real estate market in Colorado Springs.
Thank you, Dirk and Mike. Does the Chamber have any success stories of companies that Chamber efforts have helped through economic difficulty over the last year? And I know Andrea posted some videos in the chat, but maybe Dirk, you would like to.
Yeah, I'm not tracking the chat box at the moment, staying focused on your questions, but you also will be out today. I mentioned earlier, we've worked with 125 different companies in our community this past year to help solve issues, concerns, opportunities for them. Let me think of additional ones. Woo, it's challenging to stand on your feet and do this. I would say to come up with them right off the top of my head, I will identify, well, I know the ones you're going to see. Engineering. It's an aerospace defense firm, engineering, that we helped them receive a technology grant through the State Office of Economic Development and International Trade that's helped them expand. Coincidentally, 2 weeks ago, Sunday, 10 days ago, they were on the front page of the business section to talk about their growth and the impact that they're having in our community right now. Another one I would identify is, I'm gonna look at Beth Taylor, and yeah, Beth, go ahead and unmute. And Beth is our Vice President of Business Retention. Oh, you know what? You cannot unmute because you're not a co-presenter. Yeah, chat me. I'll share stories. Aerospace Corporation, they're a quasi-federal research and development organization. I employ about 200 people here in the community. They're based out at the airport. They're going through an expansion in construction right now, expanding their presence in Colorado Springs to add 200 jobs, high-paying research jobs. We were on the phone with them just yesterday, helping connect them to our airport, where they're looking to set up a GPS receiver about GPS signaling and how interruptions can occur, and needed that connection with the airport to see if they can find a location for where they could do that additional data collection. Titan Robotics is another one you'll see more of in our annual report and in a video that Andrea shared. Now, they started working with us last year. We connected them with PTAC, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. They work with companies to help win federal contracts. And in the process, they large format 3D printers. Literally started in the couple's garage, the founder's garage, and have grown now the workforce and have a brick and mortar location. They received a $10 million grant that led to working with Beth on our team to get a state expand their production capabilities. 6 companies, let's see, Colorado Biz Magazine identifies every year 50 companies, Colorado companies to watch. It's a big statewide competition. And this year, 6 local companies were named as winners of that. Colorado Springs companies we could find on record. Mike Juran's firm, Altea, was one of those. Titan Robotics was one of those. Distillery 291 were all companies that were recognized as winners of that. It's one way we help elevate the visibility and the prominence of our business community on a statewide platform. BlueStack, thanks Beth. BlueStack was another one 4 years ago with 4 founders. who located today. They employ about 60 and they're on their way to 100 in 2021. They were also recognized as in the best places to work. They're recognized by Colorado companies to workplace. They're located here downtown, and Seth Harvey and his group are just doing a terrific job, as Mike said, growing and expanding here. And Seth Harvey joins our board of directors on January 1st of this year to provide his voice in the business community. So there's a handful. We got 4 more minutes left, and we could fill those stories, but there's a few of the examples, Emma, in response to that.
Appreciate it, Dirk, and good job on your toes with that question. I know we've helped a lot of businesses this year with our partners in the community. We have 2 more questions left. We'll see if we can get to them. One is, does the Chamber have community Colorado Springs, regardless of where Space Command is?
That is something that we can prepare and could post on our website for folks to have access to those.
Yeah.
Kathy mentioned earlier. Yeah, Kathy.
Yeah, I did take the opportunity, knowing I was going to be talking to you today, to ask General Whiting about some operations and training command. The operations center, the Consolidated Space Operations Center that some of you may have heard of, is at Schriever. It's going to break up last year and this year in the defense budget, and that will stay in Colorado Springs. There was rumors that that operations center might move with the command headquarters, and he assured me that that would. As there's so many other missions, you know, the GPS mission, for example, MilSatCom mission. There's just so many. So we could, I think, would be better once we find out too. My thought. The only other comment I would make is he did bring up STARCOM, which is the Space Training and Readiness Command. And he did say that that would be a potential command that we would compete. It's a 2-star command that we could be in another competition for, by the way, Dirk. So yeah, if you haven't heard that, that was the one thing that we did here. But the 3-star command is a really important designation for Colorado.
Thanks, Kathy. Good question. That's not one we put together. We'll respond to that. You said is there one more, Emma, and if there's any final comments you want to make after this last question?
This is kind of a doozy question. I know affordable housing is hard. What is your view of the future of affordable housing?
Short answer, that is a doozy of a question. And short answer, it's something we as a community, and there's not one step, there's not one action that's going to address this. But I can tell you it is a key issue for us as a community to continue to thrive and prosper, to ensure that our particularly our entry-level, younger professionals, that they can afford to live in Colorado Springs, to be part of our community. I'm a father of 3 adult kids. I shouldn't say adult kids, 3 adult children of mine who are all in their 20s. We have conversations about this regularly, about whether they could afford to live here based on the work that we do. So I'm both personally and professionally aware of the challenges that our community. Mike addressed some of this earlier about the need to be more creative in our housing mix. I was pleased to see the news week before last that the city has annexed nearly 1,000 more acres into the city, and the homes that will be built there as our inventory of available residential properties continues to speed up to keep pace with the rate that folks are moving to our region. Guys, we've been discovered. We've been discovered as a great place to live. The state demographer estimates that 15 people moved to El Paso County, every stock available, the inventory available to serve them. Housing and Building Association, Pikes Peak Association of Realtors, Chamber EDC, and a number of other organizations are working together on this. And it's really a multi-pronged approach. It's a multi-pronged solution that's necessary, from talent availability, the talent attraction that's necessary for our construction companies here to build those, to the land that's available and the number of residential lots that are available, and the housing mix that we provide. So there's a number of things that need to be addressed and a number of things that are being addressed. I can tell you from my conversations with community leaders, folks are acutely aware of the need. I'll just close by saying thank you all for joining us today. Nearly 200 folks on the call today, and just really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us, to hear about the Chamber EDC, our work in 2020, and our look ahead to 2021. Kathy, again, thank you for your leadership on our board for the last 7 years. Mike, thank you for taking the gavel as other directors there. Thank you to each of you for the leadership you provide. Thank you to all of you for the support you provide us. Mike, any last comments you want to share with the group and close us out?
Just simply that the future is bright. I think we're going to all be surprised when we come out of this pandemic just how the growth path of Colorado Springs is going to just affect all of us. So keep doing what you're doing out there. Come to us for help. And we look forward to 2021 and 2022 and beyond.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We're adjourned for the state of the Chamber EDC. We look forward to seeing you live in person soon.
Thanks, Dirk.